phone started blowing up, guys, and the texts at about 7 o'clock that, hey, be prepared because it's going to be a busy day for you, and it certainly was. In fact, we had I had a sit down with Dusty May today, scheduled at 11 o'clock, and I was almost late while we were working on this stuff because obviously everybody wants to know what's going on with Sherrone Moore and a potential 2-game suspension. And what we've been saying is basically what we've said is what we've been saying for the last several months, that the penalty that the NCAA wants is Sherrone Moore suspension at some point. And from what we've heard from several sources extremely close to it, that it was initially a lot more, and again, this has not been accepted by the NCAA yet as the final punishment or anything like that. But we'd heard, initially, boy, maybe he gets a year. But then it was maybe 6 games, and so Michigan, I think, is looking right now at, okay, this is what we're willing to accept, and it's a 2-game suspension. Does not want to miss the Oklahoma game. That was made clear to us several weeks ago. He's going back to Oklahoma, his alma mater. He really wants to coach in that game. So there were a couple things in play here. One was the timing of it. If they're going in front of the Committee on Infractions on June 6th, I think it is, would there be a ruling before September, whatever it was, when they play Oklahoma? So they thought maybe it might come in the middle of September. So they said, okay, we'll go games 3 and 4. More than likely, it's because Sherrone Moore doesn't want to miss that Oklahoma game. And we'll see if the NCAA even accepts that. Maybe they say it could be 4 games when they go in front of the Committee on Infractions, if you guys want to work this out. Or they might accept the 2 games, or they might just say, hey, it's got to be the first 2 games of the year. So that's what we don't know at this point. And then the other potential punishments these are things that have been raised as possibilities that we put out today, that, okay, these are things that they might include to sweeten the pot, so to speak, when it comes to punishment in terms of recruiting, some recruiting cutbacks, some official visit cutbacks, and things like that. So, and of course, again, and as we said in the article, these are proposed, and these are the things that we've heard and that we've seen that are being brought up as potential punishments. But it does seem, there's no question that it seems very likely that at least the 2 games will happen, that Michigan has agreed to that. And then it is up to Sherrone's lawyers to negotiate from there. So Sherrone does have his own lawyers working on it, just like Michigan's other coaches involved had lawyers working on this. So, and then, of course, you got the Michigan side of it. These are the proposed punishments as well from the Michigan side. So lots still to uncover here, and lots to really think about. But at this point, if you can take this, and if this is the final word on it, and everybody's like, well, does this mean it's over? No, it doesn't mean it's over. It just means that the Sherrone Moore piece of it's over. Then you're going to have the Jim Harbaugh and the Counter Stallions piece, which is probably going to involve show causes. We're hearing fines. But again, we have not heard anything from any side, NCAA or Michigan, about any vacating victories or postseason bans or anything like that. So this is where we stand right now.
I think in addition to Oklahoma being Sherrone Moore's alma mater too, I mean, I think if you're going to self-impose and pick and choose what games that you want to suspend for, it's a little bit easier to get a couple game weeks under your belt with the full staff, operating as normal. And then, obviously Sherrone Moore is going to have then go away for 2 weeks, and not just the game day. They passed last year that if you get suspended for a game, you're not able to be with the team the entire week leading up. So 2 full weeks, that Sunday in between, not with them. I think, especially with all you have to replace and whole new offense and everything, having everything in place for a couple weeks would make some sort of sense. But either way, ridiculous to be serving a suspension for deleting and then turning over innocuous text messages. 2 games is harsh enough, and the fact that that might not be accepted by the NCAA as enough is ridiculous. To be honest, level 2 violation, and we're talking about a case that may not even be that major in terms of how many games that Michigan's claiming, maybe 8 or 9 games that some low-level staffer scouted in person. The NCAA's admitted themselves that it provides a minor competitive advantage if you in-person scout. So again, an overblown case, things being overblown in it. And I think a lot of Michigan fans are extremely disappointed with the way that, the athletic department, the university are handling this, because they were told, in Michigan's response that we're willing to fight. We want to have this pre-hearing meeting and all this sort of stuff. And now here you go, suspending your own coach again, all for not knowing whether or not it's going to be accepted by the NCAA. The last time they did this to their own head coach, the NCAA didn't accept it and gave him a 4-year show cause and a 1-year suspension on top of it. And he left anyway, probably because you took a baseball bat to his kneecap in part. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out for Michigan. But I think a lot of fans are disappointed with the way things are playing out.
Disappointment is certainly the word. Something that the first thing that comes to mind when you see that he is, that they've sort of handpicked the games for him to be out is that I just, there's a part of me that thinks that's just not going to fly because the NCAA, like we said before, was the Harbaugh suspension, and you guys can correct me on this, was it originally proposed to be 2 games at the start of that year and they tacked on a third, or how did that work out the first time around?
They wanted to do 4 and the NCAA didn't accept it. Then they self-imposed 3, I believe.
Okay.
Right.
That's the biggest maybe concern. And since we're talking concerns here, is that the NCAA is going to say one of 2 things. The first being, no, that's not going to fly. You have to sit out these first 2 games, including the one that involves your return trip to your alma mater. Or 2, they accept the 2 games and go, okay, yeah, we'll take those 2 games in addition to those first 2 games as well. Because that's what we've seen the NCAA do throughout all this thing. And I'm not, we're going on year 3 now of talking about this sort of stuff. So I'm not necessarily going to go back into the, NCAA is being too hard on Michigan. At this point, this whole thing's ridiculous. You're suspending a guy or want a guy punished because of the implication of what deleting text messages looks like. I think that's ridiculous. But, I'm also at a point, and I think a lot of fans are here too. And we will take some questions throughout just as people ask them. Mr. Dave wonders, is this separate from the sign stealing? No, this is that case. This is, not tied into stealing signs per se, but it is part of that case and that investigation. So
the cooperation,
me,
being the big word,
or lack thereof in their words. So for me, it's I think I have come to this point, and I think a lot of Michigan fans are probably at this point too, where whatever gets this wrapped up the quickest, I do think that whatever happens to Sherrone Moore is going to be the extent of what happens to the current Wolverines or the accomplishments that came from the teams he was involved with. From there, it's all on the guys that aren't here anymore and whatever the institution has to pay. So it's been an interesting day, obviously, interesting few days, also with the news that Santa Ono is on his way out the door. But in terms of, pivoting back to Monday's developments, some of the other things that might be on the table in terms of punishments for Michigan, the coaching staff, I know there's some stuff on the recruiting trail. Chris, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, just that they are talking about official visits, maybe marking them down. You know what? It's been such a busy day. I even forget what's in the article. We put it up so early this morning. There were some Friday nights that Sherrone Moore might not be able to go on the road recruiting. I think that was another one in there. So just some general, and I think something about 20 visit dates or something like that they were eliminating potential unofficial visit dates or something. So these are things, again, being proposed that they could lump in with this 2-game suspension that's expected. That again, I hate to say sweeten the pot for the NCAA, but from what we've been told in the negotiations from both sides, these are things that at least have been well received. And it's like, okay, this is something that we can work with, other than, whatever some of these idiot bloggers are saying, well, burn the program down, they're going to get the death penalty, so on and so forth. So it is basically at this point what's going to appease them so that this goes away. Sherrone Moore can go ahead and coach, and we can get on with business. So, and everybody's like, well, I thought they were going to fight him to the death, so on and so forth. And what we said, and what was said in Michigan's response to the NOA, as Clay said, was, hey, you're overstepping here. This is ridiculous. But at the same time, if you can negotiate it and say, okay, a 2-game suspension for our coach, maybe some recruiting cuts and maybe a fine or something like that and some probation, then you take it and you move on and you put this behind you. So it has nothing to do. Again, somebody over here is saying, "Oh, Ono left, so the president left yesterday, and this happens today." These are completely separate issues. Santa Ono leaving has nothing to do with Michigan football or this investigation or sign stealing or anything else like that. And again, there's been no talk whatsoever from any credible journalist of vacating wins or postseason bans. Initially, the NCAA came out swinging and was making all kinds of threats, which we reported last fall, which didn't go over very well. So, but when things happen, we report them, and so we'll see where it ends up. But to me, if this is the final word on it, then you take it and you run with it. And it sucks that you're listing your head coach for a few games again. But then this goes away and we don't have to deal with it anymore. It certainly has taken about 7 years off my life.
I think that if this goes away or not is really key. And like I slammed the process a little bit there, but there is some tact to it. And I wanted to go back, like Anthony, I don't think this is my understanding of it. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. Like they can't tell Michigan, no, you're not self-imposing Sherrone Moore for those 2 games. They could add on and say it's the first 2, as you mentioned, Anthony. But as our On Three's Andy Staples wrote today, that Michigan can appeal that, and then given the timeline that he's observed over the years with following and covering a lot of these cases, that appeals process would not be over till after the season, and the further games, let's say it's 2 more just for the sake of argument, would be in 2026. Then I would say and probably look back, okay, there was some tact here. Yeah, it's stupid that the NCAA wants this amount of flesh, but you got away with saying, okay, he's coaching the first 2, sitting out the next 2, and then 2 the next year, probably the first couple games. So I do think that there, that being a possibility, as Andy wrote about, is maybe part of, as he called it, the gamble or the hope that goes along with this calculated risk, as he put it, in what Michigan's doing. But yeah, the recruiting stuff, I mean, it's not totally minor either, right? Right now, their coaches are off the road, stemming back to the Burgergate situation. If you're going to limit more in-person recruiting days, and things like that, that does hurt a little bit. You're off to a slower start in the recruiting class, although you were last year too, and you finished number 6 in the country. So it can't, it's not like you can't make up some ground, but it's all pretty significant, and I think that we can't overlook how significant it is to miss the week before a game. I'd rather have the coach during the week and not at the game than, and I know you don't get to pick and choose between these 2 things, but then, not have them during the week and have them at the game. I think the week is more important. So the fact that they changed that rule, another rule change that comes from Jim Harbaugh, just like the satellite camps, which was bizarre and made no sense anyway. They banned the satellite camps. And then everyone is like, wait a minute, you can't do that. Then they're like, all right, they bring them back. But the hatred they have for Jim Harbaugh seems like what they have against Michigan, it goes back many, many years here.